Every single night, without fail, you step into another world, and the strange thing is that you do it so often you hardly think about it anymore, because familiarity has a curious habit of disguising the extraordinary, and perhaps that's why some of life's greatest mysteries remain hidden in plain sight. We become so accustomed to them that we stop asking questions, and once we stop asking questions, we stop noticing what's really happening. So tonight, before you go to sleep, consider something for a moment. You're about to disappear. Not physically, of course, because your body will remain exactly where it is, breathing quietly beneath the covers, while the room around you stays unchanged, and the clock beside the bed continues measuring the passing hours. Yet, although nothing appears to happen from the outside, something remarkable begins happening on the inside, because while the world continues exactly as before, your mind quietly slips beyond the ordinary rules that govern your waking life. And as your conscious awareness slowly lets go of the day, something else begins to emerge. A place without maps. A place where time behaves differently, because a few seconds can feel like years, and where impossible events somehow seem completely natural while they're happening. You may find yourself walking through a house you've never seen before that somehow feels like home, or speaking to someone who passed away many years ago as though they'd only stepped into another room for a moment. And while none of it makes logical sense, logic hardly seems to matter because, inside a dream, experience always feels more convincing than explanation. Which is interesting when you think about it, because the dreaming mind rarely stops to question itself. Instead, it simply accepts. You accept that doors lead to impossible places. You accept that gravity suddenly changes its mind. You accept that animals can speak, strangers know your name, and entire lifetimes can unfold before breakfast. And only when morning arrives does another part of your mind quietly return and begin asking questions that somehow never seemed important while the dream was taking place. Then you open your eyes. The bedroom comes back into focus. The ceiling looks familiar again. The alarm sounds. You reach for your phone. Perhaps you remember fragments of the night before, a staircase leading nowhere, an old school friend, a hidden room, a conversation that felt strangely important, and almost without thinking, you smile to yourself and say the same sentence millions of people have spoken before you. It was only a dream. Only. It's such a small word. And yet it's one of the most persuasive words in the English language, because the moment we say only, we've already decided something doesn't deserve any further attention. It's only coincidence. It's only imagination. It's only luck. It's only a story. It's only a dream. And because we've labeled it that way, curiosity quietly packs its bags and leaves the room. But what if that's the mistake? What if dreams have been hiding in plain sight precisely because we've convinced ourselves they're unimportant? Because here's something worth thinking about. Dreams have inspired scientific discoveries. They've inspired paintings, novels, films, and symphonies. They've comforted people through grief, helped solve problems that seemed impossible the day before, and occasionally nudged someone towards a decision that changed the entire direction of their life. In fact, if you look closely enough at history, you'll discover that dreams have quietly influenced artists, inventors, psychologists, philosophers, and ordinary people for thousands of years. And although they rarely announce themselves with certainty, they often leave behind something even more valuable. A different way of seeing. And perhaps that's where things become really interesting, because maybe the purpose of a dream isn't to predict the future at all. Maybe it isn't trying to send mysterious messages from somewhere beyond ordinary experience. Maybe the dream is doing something both simpler and far more profound. Maybe it's changing the person who will wake up tomorrow morning. Now, at first, that sounds almost too simple, and because it sounds simple, it's tempting to overlook it. Yet almost every lasting change you've ever experienced began somewhere inside your own mind long before anyone else noticed it on the outside. Before someone starts a business, they first imagine it. Before an artist paints a picture, they see something nobody else can see yet. Before someone finds the courage to change their life, something changes in the way they think about themselves. Every external transformation begins as an internal one, which raises a fascinating possibility. What if the sleeping mind is quietly preparing tomorrow's decisions, while today's conscious mind has temporarily stepped aside? What if, while you believe nothing is happening, your brain is busily reorganizing memories, testing possibilities, softening painful emotions, experimenting with different versions of the future, and quietly asking questions your conscious mind has been too distracted to consider? Because if that's true, then perhaps the biggest misunderstanding about dreams isn't that they're strange. Perhaps it's that we've underestimated them. And once that possibility enters your mind, another question naturally follows. What exactly is your brain doing while you're asleep? Because if dreams really can influence the person you become, then understanding what happens after you close your eyes might just help explain how real change begins long before anyone, including you, ever notices it.